human reaction. And as sad as I was to have to do it and to say goodbye, I'm quite honored by it in a strange way.
There was actually, in an earlier version of that script, there was mention of suicides throughout the fleet, that they kind of got dropped. And
they were afraid of it. They were really, I brought it up the very first year. By the second show, I wanted it to become, the number to be decreasing as they put it out there. Me just turning and saying, what's going on? I said, well, there's 17 more suicides today. Just that people were checking out. And we wanted that throughout the whole show, but they wouldn't. That's when we did Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down right away. They go, get some humor.
Yeah, so let's get Ty drunk.
Yeah. We actually shot a comedic version of Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down.
Yeah. So believe it or not, we actually did back off on the darkness from time to time. Yeah. It could have been worse. Over here.
I have a question for Richard. The original series is where we started. Any thoughts or memories of Lauren Green, or the difference in the, I won't call it technology, but special effects between the two series?
I kind of missed that a little bit. What was the end of that question?
The special effects. Were there any humorous stories between the two series?
From the original?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Blame it on my youth.
we actually had John Dykstra who did the special effects for Star Wars. They did those for Battlestar, but I do have to admit that they used some of the same shots over and over and over again. Going different directions, of course. You can reverse it, you know. But we had back projection is what we had. They'd project, you know, a starfield, you know, against the screen, and then we'd have a bunch of crew rocking us in the, you know, in the Viper. Sometimes they'd get a little overzealous and rock us right out of the Viper. We had some little monkeys in these little Daggett suits that would kind of get lost and rebel against their little suits and go screaming around the rafters for a couple of hours, you know. But, beg your pardon?
Actual monkeys?
We had 3 little monkeys. We called them monkeys in bondage because they were they were in these little mechanical suits, you know. And we had 3 that would alternate in the like Huey, Dewey, and Louie, you know. We had little monkeys that would kind of take turns in the little suits. But it was, I have to tell you, I talked to Mark Hamill after he did Star Wars, and he'd come up to the streets of San Francisco, and I had replaced Michael Douglas on that show. I remember looking at Mark, and we had auditioned for many similar things, and I said, well, what have you been doing, Mark? And he goes, oh, I made this little film called Star Wars. That's what he said, this little film called Star Wars. And it was a little film when they made it. But when they put all those special effects to it, all of a sudden it becomes this big thing that you can't believe, right? And back then, we actors weren't used to that. So, you know, you go do your work, you show up, and you do whatever you're doing. And then, you know, a year later, all of a sudden you go see this movie. And the same thing went for Battlestar. I mean, we're shooting, but you have no idea what they're doing with the special effects, and how that's all going to composite together, and how that overall final look is going to look. So, I mean, we were as excited to see all that stuff added to it. But it's amazing. I mean, honestly, at least in the first couple of episodes, they put a lot of energy into it. But, you know, what I never understand is, here's a successful show, it comes out, we had 65 million people watch the opening episode of that, right? And from day one, they're pulling the budget back. From day one, they're taking money out of all the departments, you know? And so now, every department's having to do with less and less and less, which is why John Dykstra ultimately left. Because, you know, first of all, we're trying to mount a theatrical style series on a weekly basis, which, number one, is a major challenge anyway. It took us 10 to 12 days per episode. 10 to 12 days. People were getting rich in triple overtime just sitting in their truck. I mean, we would sit on the back lot. I had, you know, the mechanical jaws was right outside my motorhome, you know. Every time I walk out the door and have to look at this big mouth ready to eat me. But I mean, we lived on the back lot 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to get this thing done with the technical challenges of that show. But ultimately, like I said, they kept pulling the budget, and then ultimately the shots got more and more duplicated. And, you know, I think it lost a lot of the quality that they did. But I think the opening, you know, stuff that they did was pretty good. And John Baxter was amazing. I mean, if you've seen all the, you know, Spider-Man movies and all the other stuff that he's still doing, he's one of the most amazing special effects supervisors in the business. Yeah.
Here.
First, a quick statement. Admiral Adama, I agree with everything you've said as far as the current events, and it hit home. But as a retired Army paratrooper, I've got a question for all of you. Did y'all have any type of training, any type of advice on what it was and how to act as soldiers? Because I have to say you did a pretty good job of nailing the attitude of being a soldier.
Did you go to boot camp? No, you didn't go. Yeah, all the youngins went to boot camp. If Big Daddy T-Dog was here, he could attest to this, because he made us do knuckle push-ups in the ground wall because he forgot his beret downstairs. Yeah, we did 5 or 6 days of boot camp. They put us in a bus, took us out about an hour and a half outside the city and kind of dropped us off. Nobody was around. My first question was, they know we're actors, right? A bunch of people came yelling out of the building. Yeah, 5 a.m. PT, team building missions, having to climb over stuff, having to bandage people up and carry people back, bed checks, all of that. Assignments, you know, we were all given information about our respective departments. We all had to clue everybody else in on what our departments were. We had to know our stuff, and we had to work together. We trained together, we worked out together, we helped each other out, we ate together just as if we were in an Army barracks for 5 days, for 6 days, but it really gave us a sense of the responsibilities and the discipline and the calm necessary to be a soldier.
Also, we had on the set every day,
Right, yeah.
there was always a technical advisor, and they were worth it where they go. So everything that we did was technically correct.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, many high-ranking military leaders have come to me and said, you know, we watched the show, we're fans of the show. What you guys did was amazing, because it stood true to what the situation is on board a ship and the militariness of it. So they were very happy, and I was very happy that they felt that way. And so thank you for your service to our country too.
Absolutely. We're getting the hook.
Yeah, we got it for one more. We got over here.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being a part of the best fracking show on TV. And my question is for the Admiral. In the scenes when Adama was reading to Rosalind during her cancer treatments, he read to her from Love and Bullets and also Sea Rider Falcon. Mr. Olmos, did you ever wish that either one of those stories was real and you could actually read it to the end?
You know, I fell in love with Mary, and in character, it was an amazing transition because I really didn't like her at the very beginning. It was radical dislike, and so it was, and I'm glad they took the time that they took to really make it work, because it took about 3 seasons before we really started to even look at each other, because we were really vindictive friends. You know, we had a mission that we had to do, get people through this, but we really didn't appreciate each other's company. So to go to that extreme and then go to the other extreme, yeah, I would say that if Mary McDonnell was not married, we would be. Yeah. Great lady.
first I just want to say, as a BSG fan, then watching Dexter, that was insane. You were fantastic, and it was very cute to see the eyebrow like that.
I confused myself on that show.
Sure you did. But I wanted to say, wanted to ask, since you guys dealt with some very heavy, like religious and moral issues, and new things were popping up all the time, did you guys realize anything about yourselves or learn anything about yourselves that surprised you?
Well, having to put myself in the presence of mind of choosing to kill myself, I had to ask Candace that question, if I was capable of that. And I did a very interesting meditation on death. And I'd always believed that I would not be that kind of person. I love my life. I think of myself as a very positive person. I think from where I've come from and the future that's before me, I'm very hopeful about all those things. But when I really sat down and meditated on it, I realized that I could make that choice under certain circumstances if it meant something to someone. That's something that I would and could do, and that surprised me immensely. I thought my self-preservation skill, my level was pretty high. But I guess, yeah, that was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the scene where I had to kill the council. You're laughing at that.
That was cold.
Yeah, that was.
Just ball inside you and your hat.
No, I got to tell you,
What a choice.
it was the hardest thing, seriously, I've ever done in my life. And you know, initially, they actually had the council supporting me, and I walk out and I tell them to blow them away. Right? And I said, no, that could never happen. I said, number one, that would, for me, it confused me because I kept thinking, wait, do you know who Tom Zarek is? Tom Zarek would never do that. The council was the one body, the one group of people that supported him. And honestly, he, you know, when you come to a coup, and I thought about this, talk about morally conflicted situations where we have to kind of look at ourselves and say, what would I do? And I thought, you know, whether it's the admiral or whether it's the president, how many of us could kill somebody, rightfully or wrongfully maybe in the end, but thinking that you could save people, right? Would you be willing to kill people? Could you kill people? Could you actually do that? Could you make that decision? If you had to shoot somebody, because in your mind, in your heart, your soul, you felt you had to do that right now, right? Could you do it? Do you have that moral fiber, that strength to see the larger picture and do that? And I honestly, in that moment, because I'd never been quite in that moment before, I really got a hit on what leaders, what generals, what, you know, corporals, captains, people that are leading men into battle, where they're having to make decisions like that. And honestly, I struggled with that scene, I really did. And finally they changed it to where the council was against me. And in a coup, which is an extreme remedy, when, you know, democracy has been lost and you're making a decision for the greater good, you know, to have to go to that length to be able to do that. And I think the only thing, I mean, obviously with Tom Zarek, he had lost everybody he ever loved. He had paid the ultimate price for trying to stand up against, you know, a suppressive government. And here he was in another, you know, situation where democracy was going left or right. And the truth is, in a post-apocalyptic type of thing or a 9/11 circumstance, good people end up doing bad things for so-called good reasons. Why? Because we all think we know what's right or what's best for people, right? And sometimes in those kind of situations where we get scared and nervous and turn our power over to governments will drift left or right and become dictatorial, right? And my thought is, you know, is a democracy expedient? Can you suspend it conveniently because in this moment it doesn't work? I mean, the question is, for me, it either works or it doesn't work. You either support it, believe in it, or you don't. And so in that situation for me, I was forced to have to do something for me as Tom Zarek. Killing my best friends. I mean, could you kill your child if that literally was going to save 10 other people? Could you? So I really got a strong, powerful, emotional hit on what it takes to be a true leader, you know? And that's kind of, and I have to be honest, I've never been in that situation ever in life. But the question is, and you ask yourself, would I show up? What would I do? What decision, could I make that decision? Anyway, that was a powerful thing for me. And I finally got through it thanks to Michael Angeles, who, we had a great producer, writer, director team that would collaborate together in a way I've never seen on any show.